There we go, and we're live. So thank you everyone that's already here and watching. We'll give it a few minutes for everyone to jump in and get a few more people in the chat. See if we've got anyone here already. I don't see no comments at the moment. So hopefully they'll come along. So how has everyone been? Luke, you were saying you're back in the office now.
Yes, mate. I feel like a machine. Yeah, I'm on my own here, so it's beautiful. It's like the spare room I never had. So I'm happy. It's been a really productive day. Nice change of scenery. But there's hand sanitizer absolutely everywhere, which is great to see. So yeah, I actually don't want to leave. I might just make this my permanent home. Just Amazon Prime a mattress. See what happens.
That's super.
That's my favorite about hand sanitizing, because like I was just at the office yesterday and just saw this very big table and a giant sign that said hand sanitizing station. And then it was just like a giant table with one thing of hand sanitizer on it. I'm like, it's not so much a station as it is just one pump.
It's a shelf.
Let's brand it. Let's go with that. Why not?
So yeah, we've got some people viewing in. Susan there, hello, and Donna, Rachel, and Panatomic Designs from Philadelphia. Cool. Yeah, that's it. And we've got someone from Mongolia. So if you're watching, just let us know where you're from. And you got a fan there, Franco, Donna.
Oh, and also knows Impact in Connecticut. Hey, Dad.
Nice.
I work at Impact.
Excellent. Welcome, welcome. Yes, I remember, Diona. How are you?
So yeah, so there's a few people tuning in, so that's great. Awesome. So yeah, this is our third of our e-commerce SEO surgeries that we're carrying out here, Ottawa in Canada. Yeah, so I'll let you guys introduce yourself. Frank, I'll let you kick off. I know we've got someone in the audience that already knows you, but I'll let you introduce yourself to everyone else.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, Franco Valentino with Narrative SEO. We're an agency out of Nashville, Tennessee, and right now I'm in the giant blue room in North Carolina because we were out of town this week. So thank you for having me again.
That's it. And Luke, over to you.
Yeah, Luke Carthy here, e-commerce consultant. So this is what I do: live, eat, breathe, sleep it. It's incredible stuff. So yeah, just more so on the CRO analytics and conversion front really is kind of where I sit. So yeah, looking forward to jumping into this.
That's it. And then over to Liz.
Hey everyone. So I am the editorial director at Impact, which is a digital sales and marketing agency. And I think I just saw somebody say they were from Baltimore. I currently live outside of New Haven, Connecticut, but I just moved up from the Baltimore area. So little love for my Maryland folks back there. So yeah, I'm the word nerd. I'm here to rip words apart.
My name's Paul Lovell from Always Evolving SEO. Yeah, big into e-commerce, GTM, structured data, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we've got 3 sites that we've been looking at, and I know you guys have all had a chance to go through them. Frank, I know you've got some slides, so I don't know if you want to start off for us.
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
What you want first?
All right. So the first one that we're going to talk about is Clifton Camera. So let me go ahead and share screen, and we will see if I know what we're doing. Share screen, grab this tab, and we'll get started here. All right, so Clifton Cameras is a camera shop, obviously, out of the UK. And from our point of view, we dive deep into the server configuration side. So the overall view of Clifton is it's a wonderful site, set up well for e-commerce. I'm going to let Liz and Luke talk a little bit more about the on-page structure. But from the server structure and from the sort of the digital interconnections underneath the website, the configuration files look good. Robots text file is in good shape. They're disallowing certain things that they should and other things that they shouldn't. The site maps are good. DNS, there's no problem with the way that they're doing the canonical links and the CNAMEs and the A records. They're using CompuWeb as the host, which is fine. But they have a very, very difficult problem, or a very serious problem, which is they're slowing their website down by using PHP 5.6.4. This version of PHP has been deprecated for years, and it's not supported. The current level is 7.4. So just improving that, and this is a couple button clicks on the server itself, can bring the speed. It can bring an extra 2 seconds of improved speed potentially for every page, as well as close a lot of holes within the server infrastructure. The other thing that's very interesting is that they are HTTP 1.1. when the internet came out, HTTP was the protocol that runs, actually transfers the pages between a server and a browser, but it does it like a walkie-talkie. So it's something gets requested by the browser, the server sends that one file over, and there's an acknowledgement. It can't send a bundle of things at the same time. The newer version of HTTP is HTTP 2, which is asynchronous. So it's more of a speakerphone. So you can grab 10 files, this browser requests everything, and the server can send everything while making more requests. That also serves to speed up the website as well. So they have a great opportunity, especially for e-commerce, where if they can reduce the web speed just by a second, that's on average a 7% improvement in conversion ratio. So really, really important for them to do those things. They also have a little bit of an issue. Their security grade is at a B right now because their server supports TLS 1.1. So this is something that recently came out. This was actually March of 2020. Browsers started warning that a site is not secure if they, and I actually had that within Chrome on another site. If they have a security certificate, but the server supports TLS or the security level of 1.1 or below, it can say not secure even though you have a security certificate. So this can affect search visibility as well. And you know, they have all the components necessary to make this a best-in-class server. They're running Nginx. It's a very well-structured site. They are also they do some caching. So a lot of really good things going on, except for the fact that they've got a couple of upgrades to do on the server. So that's what I have so far for those guys.
Have you got anything on that one at all, Luke? On Clifton cameras?
Yeah, so Clifton cameras, one of the biggest things I want to jump into. Let me just fire this bad boy up on the screen. Okay. Here we go. I'm in the shot, but I don't see it popped up. Can everyone see my screen? I'm going to assume everyone can. Is that horrible?
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay. I've got my, it's here. Literally did it a minute ago and it worked cool. So there we go. Awesome.
There it is.
Anton's
I just assumed the website was scared and didn't want to let Luke in.
That could be it. That could be it. But the first thing I want to jump into is their filters here. Like, okay. From a UX point of view, it's a little bit tricky in the sense that elements are quite small. So for mobile, this is a bit awkward, which doesn't really help. And then you've got that frustration of waiting for it to load before you can cancel and remove that situation. So that's you know, a bit of a pain. But on top of that, they're also missing out on a huge goldmine of opportunities here, because these two queries alone, sort of £250 and so on, or these kind of hallmark prices, are really powerful long tail opportunities. So if they're in a situation where, you know, they have this particular category, let's say flash guns, all of these filters right now are entirely blocked in robots.txt, which isn't really ideal. Now, there's a bad way and there's a good way to do faceted navigation or filters or whatever you want to call it. One way is kind of allowing everything to expose to search engines, which is a no-no, like you don't want to let that happen. But also to the contrary, where you have nothing exposed to the search engines, can really kind of rob you of that long tail, easy win conversion and traffic as well. So to give you an example, I'm in flash guns right now, and there's a perfect opportunity to rank for the keyword flash guns, £250 to £500, or flash guns off camera, slave, tilt and twist, that sort of thing. And these are opportunities that, you know, they may not add up to much in terms of you might get a couple hundred queries for this a month or a week. But when you combine this across all of your situation and combine this across all of your categories, all of your products, all of your brands, you can then start to really scale up on some long tail opportunities. But in terms of like category layout and so on, it's not bad. I think it's one of those things. It depends on the sector, depends on what you sell. But one thing I'd love to see here, and it might just be my eyes, but I can't seem to see the ability to switch to a grid format rather than a list view. So to have, you know, 3 products in a row or 3 columns, sorry, of products rather than one spanning across the entire page, which is, you know, as I say, it depends. If you've got items with really long titles, then this format's going to be better. But I think it could probably get away with having at least 2 per, you know, 2 columns or 2 results per row. And I think another thing as well, I get COVID is a thing. Like, I get it. I know stock, supply, issue, demand. The whole thing is a mess right now. but a lot of their products seem to be orders accepted or waiting stock. And it kind of gives me this perception that it might not necessarily be a business that's either doing so well right now, or to the other end, they're doing so well, they kind of can't keep up. So it's just something to kind of be aware of. That I think is pretty cool here. But I'm loving, to kind of talk to, in fact, I'll do one more thing that I don't like that they could absolutely improve on, and then we'll get to some of the quick wins or some of the things I like about this site. I like the fact that, you haven't really got to read in order to find what you need, right? It's all super visual. You want a flash gun right here. You want a ring light right there. That's cool. I like that. What is a missed opportunity here is all of these links here are passing equity. And I'm pretty sure that all of these aren't necessarily that important. So it goes down to the whole thing about structuring your internal links, structuring how you divide your authority across the site. You might find in a situation that use photography is like a really huge opportunity for you. So you pass all the juice there. But then you might find, for example, that vouchers and these links here, that's a bit of a weird image, but vouchers and links here might not necessarily be worth passing on every single page. It's just not worth hemorrhaging that sort of equity around. But overall, if I just do a search, we've got a pretty quick site search here, which is pretty cool. I think it's clear, it's simple, I like it, it's easy to navigate, but I think there's just those handful of things that they could absolutely turn around to get some of that long tail gold out of the box, really. So yeah, that's a wrap from me for this one.
Yeah, some good bits and pieces there, Luke. And Liz, what have you got for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me go ahead and share my screen as well. Let's hope it doesn't fight with me. Okay. Sure. Share screen. Okay. So are we looking at the Clifton Cameras website? Can you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, you know what helps? Like if I, share the thing. When it asks, so fun fact, sharing works best when you actually share the thing you're looking at. So, okay, let's talk Clifton Cameras.
It popped up and it went away again.
Wait, that's
You've unshared it.
There you go. All right, we got it.
That's really bizarre. Okay, so a couple of things that I really want to talk about here today. First, I'm going to take a look at the home page. Then I'm going to take a look at a category page. And then I'm going to look at a product page. I want to start here because the big banner headline for Clifton Cameras is a severe lack of organization that's focused on the user when it comes to content. One of the things I always recommend any e-commerce company does is they have this tendency to lift content as if it was in a catalog and just drop it in as if it's a living and breathing catalog. Now, we do have some fun things here, like a rotating carousel, and I'm going to talk about why that is an absolutely terrible thing here in just a minute. But that is the big banner headline here. Whenever you are an e-commerce website, you should sit down and say, I am my customer. What am I looking for first? I guarantee you it is not going to be a rotating carousel that moves so quickly I can't read it. It's not going to be your top offers, and it's not going to be your top selling products, and it's not going to be all of these little different things. You have someone who's coming to your website and they either want a camera, a video camera, something that has to do with mobile. You have all of this great stuff up here, right? But you have all of this real estate that should be devoted to some sort of self-selection mechanism so they can get to the part of your website where they need to go quickly. There is so much here that it's information overload. There's not really good hierarchy here to help me understand what it is that I'm looking at. It's all jumbled up based on, well, we need to make sure we have everything in front of everybody. But let's say you had that ability for someone to just go to cameras right away, right? Then just serve up your top products and brands. Then serve up your offers. But this homepage real estate here is just so much for whomever is coming to your website. You make them go through a lot of different steps and different places in order for them to find anything. Like, for example, you have your top offers and latest offers, but then you also have a box that says latest offers here. I don't get that. Like, what is that something that's really important? I do want to go back to this image carousel for a second. This is very, very popular with a lot of websites, and I've seen this on e-com, I've seen this on B2B, I've seen this on B2C. The problem is that you like it as the person who is creating your website because it allows you to put a lot of things in front of someone instead of having to pick one thing. Carousels are a diminishing return aspect of your website. Typically, you're not on it long enough for people to really get what it is that you're trying to give them. And they often get confused and actually won't end up clicking on anything that's there. So I would recommend, again, give them some sort of strong self-selection area so they know where they want to go, or pick one thing that is the most important thing that should be in this real estate. There's too much here. It's as jumbled and as confusing as the rest of the homepage. Luke, you brought up a lot of really good points here already. I really like what you mentioned about not having the grid view. Again, this is about content organization. There's a lot of content here, but again, if you're trying to get me to buy something from your website, like I love that we know what a mirrorless camera is, but if somebody's looking specifically for a mirrorless camera, they probably have a good idea already of what it is. I would shorten this area up. I might have some things like these are like, you have the sorting here, but there's like, if you were to get rid of some of this text and maybe think about playing around with, well, here are our most popular, here are the newest ones that have just come in, and then give people that list. My concern here is that nobody's likely going to get to page 5. Like anything that is listed on page 5, I regret to inform you, your camera is not going to get sold. So let's get creative more about what is in this real estate area and really, again, challenge yourself from the user perspective. If I were sitting down to buy a mirrorless camera and a whatever type of camera, what would I want to see here? What is there further self-selection that you can provide people beyond the standard most popular A to Z price high to low? You know, you are the experts, right? So maybe you could have something that's an experts pick area. This might be a great place to elevate the people who work for you. You know, let's just say you have a guy named John and he's like been using mirrorless cameras for years. Is there something where you could have like once a month, once a week, a rotating pick of like, specifically, I love this camera and specifically here's why. So just that's a few thoughts here on the content for a category page. Going into the product page itself, I love the videos, or not the videos, the photos, but there is a distinct lack of video here. Again, depending on what your organization looks like, it might be great if you have something that ends up being an editor's pick. They create a little video for it. It goes on here. I find it interesting that we have tons of content here, and then when you actually go into a product, there's like no content. I'm so glad it's the first mirrorless, but is it good for beginners? Is it good for intermediates? Is it good for experts? Like, again, this website is built to get all of your products out there, but it's not really done with your user or your ideal customer in mind. You've shown me all your products, but you've made it very difficult for me to make a decision. And that is present on your homepage in terms of how it's organized, in terms of category page, in terms of lack of organization options and surfacing different types of products to the top. And it's present here because unless I have some sort of like special affinity or lack of affinity for Lumix, I don't know how to make a decision here. So, and that's a lot of white space to just leave completely empty. I think there's a lot more that can be done here. So those are my thoughts. Back to you in the studio.
Paul,
yeah, go ahead. Go on.
I had one more thing for them. That's just a thought that Liz just triggered. There are no review stars anywhere on the product pages, and there are no review stars attached to the particular products. This is a great opportunity for them. It's a missed opportunity because when you have review stars attached to a particular product or on a web page, that's north of a 16% CTR improvement or click-through rate improvement if it's the only entry on the SERP that has stars on it. So they're losing an opportunity there. And if you do a site operator on the site, none of the URLs have review stars. And I think they may have, when Google moved our cheese from local business organization where the review stars were embedded over to product and service, they may not have picked up on that change. So that's a free and very quick CTR boost by implementing Schema correctly.
That's it. That's great. And if I just move my screens around, I will share some information of what I've picked up on this one. All of everything you've said so far, guys, has been great. So let me just share screen. There we go. So I want to share this screen here. Right, so you see my screen there, robots.txt file. There it is.
Okay,
right,
just loaded.
so yeah, that's it. So yeah, so again, yeah, the robots file, there's a lot in there. One thing I did notice is that they're blocking a very specific user agent. And for the people out there that are e-commerce, that specific one there is from a Chinese e-commerce site, one of the biggest ones in China. And what they were doing was they were scraping people's websites and then sticking their content on their site. And essentially, because of the authority they had, it was like pushing some of the people that are selling their own products out of the SERPs. So if you want to look at the sort of user agents you should be blocking, you can go over to this handy little site here, which is Stop Bad Bots. There's a list of them there that you can look at. I don't know how well defined they are, but there's a lot in there, and there is some quite nasty ones for e-commerce in there where they are pretty much scrapers, to be fair. So that's that part of it. I also looked at their sitemap file. I know you did as well, Franco. The bit I noticed was there was no last modification date there, so they're not sending a clear signal to Google of what pages were updated when. The other thing that they've also got, and it might be a fair point, there might be a lot of content in there or a lot of queries on it, is you notice there's a lot of information regarding like 2017 models. You've got 2018, which is like you were just mentioning, mirrorless camera for 2018 in their blog. I'm sure that could probably be updated. It's a couple of years old. And again, 2019, we're coming to the end of it, but I know there was one in there which was a sale page. That's it there, winter 2019. So just a couple of little bits and pieces on the sort of like more technical side. I did obviously run them through the structured data testing tool. Yes, they are missing out on the reviews, like you said, Franco. But also what they're missing out on here is all of this information they've got on the right-hand side here. These are all individual snippets of structured data in individual pieces. When you look into product, this specific camera here is going to have accessories on their website elsewhere. It's going to be related to other products. And there's actually 48 different types of structured data that you can nest underneath product. So they're missing out a lot of opportunities. And also they're not also saying that this is part of a web page that's published by their organization and is part of a website. So if they coded up in a graph, it'd be a lot better. But one of the best ones that I found was in their footer. Now, obviously, they must be making sales internationally because they've got a special section here, which is for international orders. Now, they're asking people to pretty much just email them the order and pretty much do a bank transfer to complete that order. Now, if they're getting orders internationally, that would surely justify setting up a domain name and a website presence within that region if you're already making sales. So that would be that part of it, as in there's a chance for international growth, whether they use Amazon or eBay or whether they do it themselves. And yeah, on the filters, Luke, they could also use GTM and apply a no index filter there. So I'll stop sharing. They're just a couple of little bits that I picked up on there. If anyone watching has got any questions, please do put them in the chats. I know we've got a lot of people viewing from America and a few people from India and New York City there at the bottom as well. So that's great. And yeah, Franco, if you want to lead, we can roll straight into the next slide before we pick up on any questions.
Sure. I want to give an award to Hans, though, for joining from Mongolia, of all places. I think he wins the halfway around the world viewer. I'm telling you. Very
wow. Cool. Awesome.
All right. Let me share screen here. Grab the other tab. 2 ticks. All right. Let me know when you guys can see the screen again.
Nothing at the moment.
Here we go.
There it loads. All right.
Oh,
awesome.
God.
That's it. We're done. Luke's comment says everything, right? All right. Yeah. So I'll let Luke comment on the rest of that, what's behind that comment. But Sea Kitchen, it's very similar to what we just talked about with Clifton cameras. Notice that it says not secure, even though they have a security certificate for the website. This is because Chrome browsers, as of March 2020, started alerting if you had TLS enabled, TLS 1.1 or below enabled on your server. So this is this can affect search visibility. It can affect the positions where your keywords are, as well as the breadth or the keyword density of your position of those keywords. So there's a lot going on the screen. They actually had they redesigned the website sometime in the middle of May of 2018. Which we'll talk about in just a minute as well. But if you look at, there's two things with the lock icon. Number one is TLS 1.1 is enabled on the server. They also have non-secured links embedded on the home page. So their CDN is prefixed, and this may have been hard-coded, which just tells us two things. They need to globally edit any hard-coded links that have HTTP in them, and also enable HSTS. The security policy that if there is a non-secure link and someone clicks on it, it never serves that. It prefixes with the correct security certificate. So that's the first quick low-hanging fruit optimization for them. Something else that we found which was interesting. This is not their complete keyword density. This is actually review stars. At some point, they're sitting at 393 keywords that have those 5 little awesome stars listed on Google itself. They had 6,300 of them in March of 2019. And this talks to the same issue that we just discussed with Clifton, is that the review code got moved from one place to the other by Google, and it ran really nicely for about a year, and then it completely dropped off. This is free clicks. It's literally free clicks on Google. So editing and auditing your review schema is super important. So we did that. The issue with the product schema on C-Kitchen is that it's missing the price field, which is a required field. If you have, and they have a very well-structured product schema on the website, but if you have one error, none of it gets picked up by Google. So literally fixing that price field can enable that again, and hopefully get back to 6,300 keywords with those stars on them. So great low-hanging fruit for these guys. And that's what I had. The server's in good shape. They could use a little bit of optimization, nothing crazy, normal database optimization, checking time to first byte, running it through web page test, and optimizing images would be a smart thing.
That's it. There's some great insights there, Franco. So Luke, what you got for us on?
Yeah. Let's just unleash on this bad boy of a website. It's crazy. I'm not even going to talk about SEO on this one, because if like this was a client that came to me and says, hey, help, SEO is not their problem, in my humble opinion, in the sense of, if we started to increase traffic, and if traffic was an increment and we started to move the needle in terms of how much traffic they get, they've got bigger problems here. And my thinking is the entire UX of this thing is just a bit of I say a bit because I'm British and I want to be polite, but it's a nightmare. It's hard work. Like, I've got a 24-inch monitor, and I feel like it could never be big enough to get everything on the page that I need to see. It's overwhelming, and I get it. I'm not the commercial kitchen buyer. I'm not the kind of, in the market for this, but I just feel hugely overwhelmed. I mean, even this, Lovelace's point earlier, and the fact that carousel and doesn't really work and so on. I think this is a perfect example. Like, there's a lady here who's drinking water, and it's like a water filter, but how many people come to this actual website to identify that they need to buy a very specific water filter from a very specific brand from landing on the home page? Like, you're better off buying a lottery ticket than having that lead to a conversion. But the whole thing is just, it's everything all at once. There's no segmentation, because of course in business to business, right, it's not demand-led, it is demand-led, it's not impulse-led, right? So like in the world of fashion, you might look at this and think, oh, that can go with that, that will go with this, or this will work, or I fancy one of those. Here you have a necessity. You need something or need some things. To see everything isn't going to help you. I'm not going to be a restaurant, a bar, a bakery, a concession, and a coffee shop all at the same time. Unlikely. So give me an experience where I can go through and filter and identify what it is I want. And I imagine that because all of these things here, they're grouped into 4, this is probably going to be their 4 key categories from their opinion, whether that's by traffic or by, most margin categories or whatever that might be. So I'm going to look at this page and assume, someone who's not in the world of SEO and UX and e-commerce, that if it's not listed here, they probably don't do it. And I'm then potentially going to leave. There's 2 menus, but I'm expecting drop downs here and I don't get them. And then there's like this drop down here, which kind of makes it really confusing. And And I get it, you know, this might not be an international site. This might be a site that works predominantly in the US. But there's one thing that I hate as someone in the UK is the word shipping. Right? Shipping is a very, I feel it's a very Americanized word. And if I ever see shipping or cart on a UK site, it immediately makes me feel it's 1, Shopify, 2, eCommerce. Like that's just the way it is, because it just should just be language driven. So it's not necessarily a criticism of this site, but it's a general statement. Be careful with your language and be careful with how you word things for your specific region. I mean, let's just jump through into this. We're looking at like a department page now. So business types. And again, it's almost like a Wikipedia kind of based experience where I'm just given so much information. I have no idea what I want, and I'm kind of just, even now talking through it, it makes it difficult. I've got content guides here. I've got bakery ovens and stuff here, refrigeration. It's overwhelming. And then the other thing is as well is how many clicks it takes to get to some actual products. I've done it via a number of ways. I don't think I can do it any less than 3, which isn't necessarily a massive problem if you have a catered for and a personalized and segmented experience. That's okay. But when it's like chaotic like this, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So for this particular client, you know, or this particular guy's Sea Kitchen, I would absolutely be looking at addressing the user experience first. What is it that people want? What do they come for? How do they search? When they search, do they find what they want? Do they even get through to product pages before abandoning? You know, what's their entry point? Huge add to cart button, small copy. It kind of just screams buy from me rather than let me help you. Specification sheet for installation clearance requirements. So stuff down here, which is cool. So the product page is probably conveniently the nicer part of the site. It looks okay compared to everything else. It's less noisy. But yeah, there's a lot going on here. UX needs to be reviewed for sure. There's a huge header here. I think there's a heck of a lot of space used for this kind of live chat thing and this free shipping icon. There's such a real estate spot. It could probably be something a little bit more suitable. But yeah, it's hard work. And I think that they absolutely need to look at a redesign or at least refining a user experience depending on the segments. But yeah, I think that's a lot from me for this one.
Yeah, that's right. It's a very, very busy site, and I'm sure Liz is going to have plenty to say about it.
What are you talking about? I never heard any opinions. All right. So good news. Luke covered the big Band-Aid ripping, which is, wow, why? There's so much. But here's where it gets a bit funny. So let me first make sure that you guys can actually see my screen. Can you see it? Is it there? There we go. Okay, perfect. So as you can see by my many tabs, we have some discussions that we need to have here. I'm not going to go ahead and belabor the point that Luke already made, but good gravy, there's so much here. I literally do not know where to start. I am completely overwhelmed, but there's one thing I want to point out here that is a little bit different than some of the e-com sites that we generally look at, or at least I've been a part of. This is a B2B e-com. Which is a bit of a different animal, especially when you're talking about how you're positioning your content. So first of all, you're dealing with not a single individual who's out there to buy a camera or a dog leash. You are talking to a business that has often tens of thousands of dollars in their budget, and they have to make very, very big decisions for their business. Decisions that they can't be like, well, this camera didn't work, so I won't buy it again. Like this is a much larger purchase. To Luke's point, I am not going to be that person who's like, I'm here to buy stuff for my kitchen. Maybe a water filter. Like, why is that there? I don't understand. In fact, what I find very interesting is it takes so long to get to the business type. I would have this real estate be, I run a restaurant, I run a bakery, I run a blank, and just make it so like you immediately get them to where that person needs to go. Because a restaurateur and a bakery owner have very different needs and are looking for very different things. So yeah, this is, oh my God, I don't, there's so much. So let's talk a little bit about what we do have going on here, because again, we have all the pieces we need here to be successful, but everything's kind of all over the place. So the reason why I mentioned the B2B e-com piece is the fact that as a regular consumer and I'm just myself, I'm going to go look at cameras and I don't mind sitting there forever. But if I'm someone who owns a restaurant, I want to know what are the top types of items. What, how much do things cost? How can I expect to budget? How can I expect to do this? How can I expect to do that? Those are typically covered in a blog. That's what content marketing is all about. Now, good news, they have a blog. It is, however, buried at the bottom in something called tips and features. That is their blog. Then you go to their blog, and this is what it is. Again, there's a lot. But here's where it gets a little bit tricky. And I want to just say, like, we don't just have a website organization problem. Most of the websites that I've seen come through Impact, they say we need a new website. I'm like, I'm also pretty sure you need a new content strategy, because you either need a new one or you don't have one and you're just like, fingers crossed, like, let's make this work. What I would say is you need to focus your content strategy on what we call at Impact the Big Five. It's based on the they ask you answer methodology of content marketing. And that's articles that have to deal with product reviews, comparisons, so comparing one thing to the other, best of list, problems, things like that. So you should have, like, what are the top 5 problems that people run into when they're opening their restaurant for the first time? What are the most common problems when you're installing a new kitchen for the first time? What are the most common problems you're going to experience with X product? What about this product versus that product? Oh, here's a review of this. You are in a B2B product-based space. You need to own those keywords, because before people are searching for a specific product, they are searching for the content that will help them make the decision about what to buy. That decision-making process is not going to happen in one click where they just start perusing through your website. You need to do that decision for them. You need to be the content thought leaders, the number one teacher, if you will, about anybody who is opening a restaurant, opening a bakery, opening a convenience store. That is what your content strategy needs to be. And then, yeah, we need to have a very a very deep and emotional talk about how everything gets organized here. A couple other things. This Dorina person, this should be an actual headshot of a human, not a cartoon. This should be a person. The blog itself, look, you guys are blogging, but that is not an article. That is a checklist with 2 steps. Again, make sure if you're going to create content, make it valuable. Go after keywords that are really critical to your people. So the other thing that is nice, though, is you do have buy-in guides. Now, the way you find them on the front page of the site is, well, this guy, and then here. I love that you have them. They're very difficult to get to. They should be nested within category pages. Hold on, I had one up here. Yeah. But if you start creating content around like food storage containers, like that's a really big, high volume keyword. This should be something called a pillar page, which is essentially the most definitive guide about anything having to do with food storage containers. And then you can link out to content like, what are the top food storage containers? What are the most common problems people might experience when buying or using food storage containers? What about these storage containers versus those storage containers? How much do they cost? This should be a big anchor piece of decision-making content that people are able to find organically, that then make people go, oh, these sea kitchen people, they know what they're talking about. Maybe I should learn more. So you're doing the right things. It's clear that you know you should be creating content and you're trying to do it. But the strategy there is where it's really falling down. Otherwise, I mean, Luke really covered a lot of it. You know that people need to make self-selection. You know that people need to be getting around their stuff quickly, but you need to sit down and think about it yourself as a B2B company first. Who are your ideal buyers? Who are those top 3 or 4 people that make it really easy for those 2 or 3 or those 3 or 4 different types of businesses to get exactly where they need to go? Then when you bring them to that page, serve up the articles and the buying guides that they need first, then bring them to your products. So those are my overall feelings. Any thoughts, grievances, feedback?
The last point you're making was perfect. The point of having the content to really sort of like push that buyer through the funnel, start of the funnel before they've even decided.
Well, especially in the B2B space, when you're dealing with such high budget items, like these are people who are not just making I need a camera decision. These are people who are like, this is my livelihood. I need to make the right decision once. And that decision doesn't happen in an instant when you put a picture of a dishwasher or a kitchen plan in front of them. They are staying up late at night on their computer when their wife says, please go to bed. And they're like, totally, sure, going to do that. They do not do that. Stay on their laptop and go, what are the top types of stove ranges again that should be used in a commercial kitchen? That's where you want to capture them. That's where you want to grab them.
There's a great article on, and Liz, you and I know Yale Appliance really well. Their top article is literally an article of which particular appliance has most failures because they have a service department. This would be a perfect piece of content in this situation as well, like which commercial range needs the least amount of maintenance, because that's where, the cost is one thing, but then your long-term cost or your true cost, right? That's something that the buyer is, boom, you get a conversion off that if you can point them to the one that long-term is going to provide the most benefit to the business. And it's a perfect way to reflect it the way you said it.
That's it. Well, I've got a couple of little bits. I'll chime in quickly, and then we need to move on to the next one so we can pick up some bits at the end. So just like the previous one, again, they've got no last modification within their sitemap. If you test one of their product pages through Tiny PNG, they could save up to 30% just by optimizing their images.
Wow.
And there's an error in the schema. Now, whilst the structured data testing tool doesn't show it as an error, as we can see at the top here, no errors, there is an error. Now, because a field is filled out doesn't mean it's filled out with the right information. So on this one here, it's price. Now we can see there they're calling out US dollar, and we can see that's not even really a price. I don't know if there's some misconfiguration within their database somewhere, but on the page that Franco showed, there was no price. On this one, that's not even a price. 1653.2100. So essentially that is going to be an error because that's not actually a currency amount. So Google will see that as an error, even though it hasn't been flagged as an error. It's still going to give Google the opportunity to not apply any of those enhanced search features that you're expecting to get due to the fact that you're giving them an invalid entry, something that they're not really expecting. Yes, it's a number, but it's still not the right number. They are missing some other opportunities. They've got a lot of information on here to do with like the dimensions of the product and stuff like that. So they are putting some time into it, but they're missing out the opportunity of listing themselves as a seller for that said product as an organization. And yeah, they should move over to doing schema via a graph. But that's all I had there. And I know we're sort of pushing for time and we've got some questions for at the end. So if we could roll on into the next one and keep it snappy so we can make sure we get to some of the questions that are coming through. So Franco, over to you.
All right, let me
blast through Pet Zoo.
Perfect. Pet Zoo. I love this site. I tell you, I'm away from town right now, and I miss my animals. So this was refreshing to see a little puppy on the page, and he's cute too. All right, so this cute guy, I love him, except he's a little overweight, meaning he needs to go on a diet because his time to first bite is 1.18 seconds. All right, let's talk about the time to first bite, and then we're going to talk about him specifically in just a second. The time to first bite, and this is a little bit complicated metric in our digital world we love to live in the nitty gritty. This is why it's important. There's a company called Clickstream CC that did a test of 9 million #1 ranking website entries on Google. Now, the time to first byte is the measure that it takes the first byte of information to go from the server to the user's browser when they make the initial connection. Now, it is not a rank factor, and Google has said this specifically. We don't use time to first byte. However, if you look at 9 million top #1 ranking entries, there's a commonality of time to first byte, which is 500 milliseconds or less for desktop. So these guys are twice that range. In our experience with e-commerce, auditing hundreds of sites, it matters a lot because the user experience tends to go down. So this is more of a user metric, meaning, again, if I slow my website down by 1 second, I just lost 7% conversions on average across the whole as an industry. So solving this is relatively simple, but it involves two things. optimizing the database, right? And whatever platform you're using, whether it's ASP or Linux or LAMP stack, just optimize the database on a quarterly basis. It helps re-index everything and the website gets faster. All right, so what that does is it'll help, if you notice, well, my little screen popped up, the loading time for the homepage was 3.29 seconds, right there, highlighted yellow on the bottom. All right, so the next thing is, when we go to him specifically, we see this little thing. So Pazu, yeah, our friend the pug here is 351 kilobytes. So he's a little bit over a third of a meg. He can be probably 100 kilobytes, I'm going to say. If you do that, you just improve the website speed considerably. There's a couple other issues with other images. So the high water message here is optimize your images globally, and that'll provide a little bit of a benefit from the speed standpoint. As far as protocols go, we're going to talk a little bit about the issue with strict transport. This is the same issue that we saw on C-Kitchen. On the server, you have to enable HSTS, and all that means is if a user clicks on a non-secure link, the server should never reply with a non-secure prefix. It should always be HTTPS. So relatively simple thing to fix, but it's done on the server. The other thing is there are some JavaScript libraries that have vulnerabilities on them. Bootstrap is out of date, and the biggest one is jQuery. The new release level, I think, is 1.17 or somewhere around there, maybe in the 20s now. But the problem is they do have security holes, and it's a little bit difficult to. You have to have a hacker that really knows what they're doing to get in. But this is just generally updating all of the components that make up the website is a really smart idea on a regular basis. Let's call it quarterly again, because this has probably not been done in a few years. And here's the biggest thing for these guys, and I'm bridging through to Luke and Liz's wheelhouse here. But if you look at the mobile view of Pazu, the burger menu blends. This is actually the menu. If I click on this, the menu would drop down. It blends into the logo, so it looks like these three slashes are part of the menu. The top level menu is also pushing down the top part of the website. So very simple CSS fix, but in our testing tools, which are not perfect, it's saying that the page is not mobile friendly. And that's a pretty critical thing because the majority of traffic is mobile, especially on e-commerce. So this is a really good optimization for them as well. Maybe they make the logo a little bit smaller and then make the burger menu a little bit more prominent, and then definitely move down whatever message they're trying to convey with the fast shipping, free shipping, etc. But make it visible, because right now it is a user problem. So I will leave it at that for the next.
That's perfect, and I loved Luke's and Lizzie's facial expressions when you showed that hamburger menu.
How'd you like that?
Super great. Big fan.
There you go.
That's it. So we go on to Luke. We have to be a little bit snappy because we want to get to some of these questions that are being asked at the end here.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so when you get those inquiries and you're almost like tempted to reduce your rate because you can feel the passion and like the fact that they love what they do. They're more about the service rather than the technology. This is one of those guys. But what I will say is there's definitely some things I'm not too cool on. One of them, I think, is straight away, there's no add to cart button or add to basket button, as this is Australia. I don't know what the lingo is over there, but whatever the right language is for cart basket or checkout, whatever. But there isn't one, almost to the point where I'm feeling like I have to hover to have one appear, and it doesn't happen. There's a lot of white space wasted here. Also, these are really small, like the titles are tiny. And there's going to be people of all walks of life, especially right now with lockdown and everything happening, using these sites. So the more accessible you make it, the better contrast you have on the name, on the text, and the improve the size of that font's going to help. But what I really don't like is how the filters are stretching far beyond the products of the page. Like there is so many filters here. It beggars belief. It's ridiculous. Like this is not only going to help impacts load times. To talk to Franco's point on speed, it's important, but it's also just overwhelming. Like you're not really going to know what the heck you're supposed to be looking at here. And if there is a particular filter you're looking for, there's a chance it's going to be way off down the page. And this is going to be massively exacerbated on mobile, right, where everything's in a single column. So yeah, there's a lot going on. There is one SEO thing that I will mention. Pagination is dodgy in the sense of when you paginate through, the paginated parameter is canonical back to the parameter free URL. So any kind of products beyond page 1 you're almost, you're basically telling people that you're not interested in having those products indexed or equity passed over, which is a bit of a shame in this regard. But yeah, I just think that's one of the main ones. I think one thing I also want to talk about as well, which actually is probably a really key point that I'll finish up on because we are short of time, is the main kind of point. I'm pointing to my screen as if everyone on this webinar can see my hands, they can't. But the main point that happens on a web page is it's down the center. So your main core focus is typically to the center of the page, right? But they've got their key pets to the left: dog food, cat, which I guess the primary kind of animals that people will be shopping for. It should all be in the center of the page. So really, dog food, cat food should probably replace reptiles, small animals, and aquarium to really help with that core focus. I get it's a challenge on mobile because everything's from left to right, but it depends on what you call user base is there. And I think, yeah, we've got another kind of carousel thing here, but I actually quite like this one in the sense of it's apparent, it's for dogs, it's probably got a broader reach. Liz may have something to tear down on that, but I quite like it. But I really like as well the fact that they just have straight away, what animal you got, man? Talk to me. But one big problem I do have, and I will finish up on this and then I'll shut up and let this take over, is the sheer number of products here. Like, this should be a department page. This should not be a product category page. This should be a page that tells me, okay, dog, awesome. What are you after? Have you got a senior dog, a puppy? Is it toys you're looking for? Kind of that breakdown on the core categories there, not showing me almost 3,000 products. It's just not going to help because there's a very slim chance that these top 4 products here is what I want as a consumer. And yeah, I'll wrap up with that and let Liz go for it.
Absolutely.
That's it. Straight over to Liz.
It was funny. As soon as we started talking about the pet one, look who showed up. This is my little murder face pumpkin. She's here to help me talk about content. I'm just kidding. You need to go over here because you're pointy. Okay, so let's talk animals. Okay, I'm very excited about this because animals are great. And hold on, sharing screen. Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time with what Luke had already talked about. I agree. So this is actually not a carousel, or at least it's not showing up as carousel on my end. I am not against a big, bold, beautiful hero space that is geared towards something specific. Here's what I will say, though. You've already covered a lot of ground of what I wanted to talk about, Luke, but I really like what you said about this. And the one thing I would say is that I wouldn't gear it around toward age of your animal. I would gear it around what the person is trying to do. Are they training a new animal that they just bought? Are they trying to feed their animal? Are they trying to put it in adorable, sad sweaters that will make the dog hate their life? You're trying to feed, clothe, train, help them feel comfortable. Like, what is the thing you're trying to do for your animal? And I think that would probably be a little bit of a better calibration around how they organize these category pages. I'm also very curious as to why we have dog food, cat food. If I'm like on a website and I'm searching for something to do, I just want to go to the animal and then I'll figure it out from there. Maybe there's some sort of SEO reason where that makes sense. That's what Franco's for and not my brain. But that's where we're at. So the other thing too is they do have a blog, and I did want to talk a little bit about their, yeah, that is what. Okay, so they have the blog and it's down here at the very bottom, which is fine. In a lot of product-based companies, you don't necessarily have to be like, we have a learning center. But I think it would be worthy in this case because there are people like me who love their animals like they are their children. And they want to do everything they can to take care of their little fur children. So when you go to their blog, this is what they have.
Need a grid.
A couple of challenges here. First of all, tons of white space, not really a lot of organization. It also looks like, I'm glad that you have a blog, but it's clear you do not know what is supposed to go here. Very similar to what we talked about for the Sea Kitchen website. This is where you want to tackle your top 5 topics: problems, comparisons, reviews, best of lists, things like that. Like, that's really what you want to be focusing on here. So it's not just like top 5, dog foods, but it's like, for example, my cat, actually, she has very sensitive skin. What are the top 5 cat foods for a cat with skin sensitivity? What are the top 5 leashes? What are the top 5 ways to get your dog to stop peeing on carpet? Like, you can not just do products, you can do like help own the discussion around everything having to do with the care, the raising of your animal. And then I would take a very similar approach in terms of the organization of the content. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find one that does what I call a learning center very well. I'm not intentionally trying to be self-promotional, but it's the only one I could find. So Impact has its own blog. That's the company I work for. And we have a learning center where people can filter by topic. And when they go to a topic, they are taken to a page geared specifically toward that topic with our top guides, a little explanation about what they're going to find there, some of our favorite articles, and then a feed of the most recent. This might be a way that you want to go. I just want to throw this out there. I think it might be a really good idea for you guys to consider, but you could do it by animal. So like, this is your dog learning center, your cat learning center, your small learning or your small animal learning center. Make it so people not only go to your blog and see that you own the conversation globally overall for pets, but this could be that space for you. This could be that space of, here's a feed of everything we've published recently. Now let's go to dog, cat, small animal. You go to that page. Hey, it's everything you've ever wanted to know about a dog. And it's like, these are the top ways to train them. These are the top things you should be buying. These are the comparisons of these types of foods. So really, you need a content strategy and you need a content organization strategy. Those are kind of my big takeaways for this.
That's it. That's great. That's really great insights there on that one. I'll keep it short and sweet. Compress your images. You'll save 49% of your load size just on your product pages. So that's a short and sweet one. Right. So we have had some questions, which is what I was wanting to get to. And I know Franco's been quite active in the chat there, answering some of them. One of them was around HTTP2. If I'm using this protocol and generic traffic. So I don't know if anyone wants to just pick up on the top level of what HTTP2 is, just very quickly, to sort of like help answer that question, because that on its own isn't going to give you generic traffic.
I'll tell you. So yeah, since we don't have a lot of time, I'll expand a little bit on what I replied to Ashish. HTTP2 is it's the modern version of the internet's protocol of what serves pages between browsers and servers. The difference is that we still have a lot of websites that haven't upgraded to HTTP2 and are still running HTTP1. That is a huge, huge problem. I've been talking about this basic for literally years. Okay. And it's a very simple upgrade on your server, but no one ever pays attention to the hosting company, right? Here's why you want to do it. It will increase your website speed and give you all of the benefits of happy users. When you have happy users, you have conversions and you have revenue and leads and conversions, etc. So this is not a direct rank factor. However, it is critically important to ranking well. So just turn it on. That's the long and the short of it is, open a ticket at your hosting company, enable HTTP2, and as soon as they do, forget about it. All right, and then just go optimize your database and your images, which are the 80% of the biggest problems that we always see typically with any website. So that's it on the HTTP2. Now I'm going to point back to Luke because Diona had a really good question about pagination, and this is critically important for e-commerce. And I'll just say this: categories matter, and then those pages within the subcategories matter as well. So Luke, take it away.
Okay, cool. So what you want to be in this, so to answer Diona's question, hope I pronounced your name correctly, is ideally what you want is for every page in series to be crawled and accessible by search engines, not just Google, but by search engines. So to just, let me see if I can share my screen real quick, because it's a lot easier to show and faster to show than it is to explain. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. So if I just go to the sort of, just wait for it to load. This site's, notoriously slow. It takes a bit of time. I'm just waiting for page 2 to load to show you some pagination. Okay. So if I wait for it to load again for vSource. So if I go to Canonical real quick, there we go. Just line 15 here, if you can see. What's happening here is page 2 is the parameter, which of course is the page 2, 3, 10, whatever that is. But what's happening here is it's been canonicalized back to the parameter-free version of that URL. So whenever Google tries to access a page beyond page 1, it's going to have a signal sent to it to say, hey, don't worry about that, go back to the base page. So you want to make sure your parameters for pages are basically a mirror copy of the canonical, or your canonical tag is a mirror copy of your paginated URL, is ideally what you want. But what I will say, just to really quickly wrap up on, is you want to also consider your internal linking for your pages as well. So don't just have page 1 linking to page 2, page 2 linking to page 3, and daisy chaining. The way they've done pagination from an internal point of view is good, because you've got multiple links passing to multiple links to pass more equity over. But hopefully that answers your question on pagination for e-commerce.
That's great. And I know Franco answered one on JSON-LD from Azish again. I don't know if you can get out that at all, Anton, which is, I'm just trying to find it now. There it is. I have one more question. Is JSON-LD for dynamic or for static sites? And I know you touched on that, Franco, so I don't know if you want to elaborate on it at all, or anyone else wants to chime in.
All right. So just real quick, and I'll let everybody talk. JSON-LD is just a language that you can use to code up schema markup, and it's the preferred one by Google. You can use microdata as well, and there's a couple others that are deprecated, but JSON-LD is the preferred method. It is not, again, a rank factor. It's just the preferred method of delivering data. So
that's it, yeah. And you can use it on any type of site as well, whether it be a dynamic site where you need to have like variables that are putting that information dynamically, or a static site. And yeah, Liz, you've got a fan in the UK. BWT UK Limited, super cute. That come up about your cat when it jumped on the screen there. So
I did want to make one other comment really quick, if we could.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, just one comment. I did want to mention this because it just came to mind. It's one of the top questions I get about content strategy, especially if you are an e-com shop like the Pet Zoo in Australia. How do you create content that's really specific towards your area? You could do top vets in a specific area, top dog parks in a specific area. You could think about owning the conversation just beyond the product. So I did want to point that out. That is a great way to capture people. It's like, well, then you're capturing people who definitely are looking for a vet in the area where your shop might be. So why not bring them in?
great point. Great point. If we have, I just want to answer the one on 33 Big Money. Love that username. He's talking about pages categories are not crawled often every few weeks. Do you think it's because lack of content updating or too many paginated pages? And this is what I didn't want to interrupt. Yeah, there you go, Luke. Sometimes you do want to canonicalize internal pages because they don't get indexed or crawled very often back to the top level category page under one very specific condition, that the category page is a really, really, really good page. Great content on it, a lot of keyword-rich data about your products, et cetera. So Luke, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's that horrible, I'm not going to say it, but you know that 2-word thing that comes up in SEO all the time. But it could be overall structure. It could be your mega menu passing equity everywhere. It could be URL bloat. It could be a number of things, filters, facets, like internal search is indexed, loads of things. But normally your categories are crawled faster if they're internally linked properly. So you're showing Google that, hey, I care about these categories, and you're not bloating out with dynamic URLs like site search, like filters on filters on filters, and then you've got a category to the power of 10, and etc. Right? So keep things tidy, keep things concise, let Google have a good time, and hopefully it will pay more attention to the content that you care about, that your customers should care about.
Yeah, and I'll just make one quick comment on that before we wrap up, and that is that a lot of big sites actually get more crawl rate to their blog because Google knows that that part of the site is getting updated more regularly and has more better content than what the blog does. And you can then also use your blog to interlink to your most important pages. So on that note there.
Secret recipes out. We're all doomed. Let's go on. See you later.
That's the next webinar.
So yeah, on that note, we'll wrap things up. If anyone has got any more questions, if you go over to the SEMrush page for this webinar, they can find all of our social profiles and how to contact us if they want any more information. Any last words from everyone?
I just want to say, I think this webinar is really made it quite concise, is that SEO isn't everything, and you need to focus on your UX, your content, and everything almost as a primary before you bring the noise, before you bring the traffic. Get the UX, get the products, get the category, the experience right before you bring traffic. Traffic doesn't equal sales, and sales doesn't equal traffic. That's it.
Perfect.
My final note would be, if you don't know what your content strategy should be, all you have to do is sit down with your sales team or whomever they are, or whoever it is that's interfacing with your most ideal customers, and just list out what are the top questions you're getting. That's it. That's your content strategy.
That's perfect. Anything from you, Franco, before we finish up?
I'm good. No, it depends.
No, that's good. Yeah, well, I hope everyone that's watching enjoyed the webinar, and hopefully we'll have another e-commerce style one coming along shortly. And that's that. And thank you, SEMrush, for allowing us to do this.
Absolutely.
Good to
Thank
see
you,
everyone.
everybody.
Cheers, guys. See you soon.
Bye.